Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Yosef Bogatyrev, a corporate administration consultant who helps startup founders scale globally by setting up and administering legal entities in Singapore. He helps entrepreneurs remove operational roadblocks stalling growth, from Stripe and PayPal rejections to App Store barriers, funding issues, and weak corporate structures. With 25 years of experience and more than 1,800 clients served, Yosef brings deep expertise in compliance, entity setup, and global expansion. He works with startups across AI, blockchain, logistics, and more. I've asked him to join us here today to share his story and insights into building the legal and financial foundation needed to grow with confidence, credibility, speed, and long-term stability in a multipolar international business environment. So, Yosef, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, Daryl.
My first question, I guess, is how did you get into this? This is a
Into
very
corporate administration or into Singapore?
well, both. I mean, I guess let's start with how did you even get into business? Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
It wasn't possible in my time because I grown up in the Soviet Union country where where all the business was belonged to the government. The entrepreneurial entrepreneurship started like in late 1980s when I finished school. I studied in the university. I also did my national service in the Soviet army. After that, the country completely changed when the Soviet Union collapsed. And okay, I would say I'm first generation entrepreneur. However, as a kid, I assisted my grandmother to sell watermelons on the market. She grew watermelons and we brought to the small town and sold them. So I was sales assistant at the age of 12.
That's interesting. So even in a socialist country, the farmers still were sort of early entrepreneurs, like that still existed. Food was still a business.
Being entrepreneur in Soviet Union was a crime. Actually, there were people who went to prison
Wow.
for running businesses because
Wow.
all private business was illegal. So there were other fields to express to develop one person's talents,
So
science, education, sports, like sublimation of entrepreneurship.
so does that mean what your grandma was doing was illegal at the time?
No, because selling produce of own farm was
That
good.
was okay.
But it was not actually a farm. It was a small plot of land adjacent to the home where she lived.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, okay. So you learned about selling and bringing a product to market when you were 12 with your grandmother. And then what happened from there? How did you get into business? I mean, it sounds like you couldn't. You could have gone to jail. You would have been a criminal.
No, the things completely changed in 1990s and everything became legal and I switched from mathematician to economist and I worked for for the bank and second for an investment company, and my long-term goal was become a stock market specialist. I specialized in the government bonds until in 1998 Russia announced default and Russian stock market collapsed.
Wow.
So at late 1998, I was invited by my good friend to try myself as an assistant in consultancy firm. So that's how I started with corporate administration.
This is still in Russia.
And it was in Russia, yes. I worked in Russia from 1998 till 2010, and I moved to Singapore in 2010.
Why Singapore?
That's interesting point because I traveled a lot. I visited like not many, but few major cities before I came to Singapore as a tourist. And it was fantastic discovery because before coming to Singapore, it looked like another city of Asia. Asia is hot, dirty, dangerous, and everything, from the point of view of people who live in Europe, say maybe in North America, say same perception. Well, when I came, what I saw, clean, safe, actually hot.
Yeah.
It felt like a place, yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah, it
very hot.
felt like a place where where I want to stay. Wherever I traveled before, I was happy to return home to the city of Moscow. Singapore was the first city where I felt like my second home. And it was 2007, 3 years later. Okay, what happened between 2007 and 2010 when I moved. Global financial crisis.
Mm.
It worsened economic situation uh, everywhere, and it felt like okay. And that was a time when I decided for myself to become an entrepreneur. And the next thing was, why don't I do it in Singapore? Because Singapore was known as a city first where business environment is most favorable, and the second, when I set up a company and I can arrange for long-term visa for myself and my family to come to live and work in Singapore.
So you set up a company in Singapore to facilitate moving there with yourself and your family.
Yes.
Got it. You talked before about Singapore. When we first talked, you talked about economic mobility. Can you talk about that now? Do you know what I'm saying? You said that you felt Singapore was a city in a country where you still have very fluid economic mobility. Is that right? Do you remember that?
Actually, I don't remember that, but how it felt 15 years ago. So before I came to Singapore. So I can do in Singapore what I did in Russia,
Ah,
but at a larger scale and working for myself, like, make more money. So it was a very basic idea of making more money than I make now,
right,
working for myself and offering the same service to the local market.
right. What about language? Language wasn't an issue?
Language, I thought it wasn't an issue before I came here. Because everyone speaks English, but
Mm.
everyone speaks his own or her own English. And it took like 6 months to adjust to many accents, to start understanding what Chinese people say, what Indian people say. After that, when I talk to people from Britain or America, even Australia,
It's easier.
Singapore is a good training point for spoken English.
Yeah. I like Singapore because I feel like, well, first, the country has very little debt. They have a very strong currency, but also I feel like they have such a deep cultural tie to China, but then deep economic and business roots in America. Right now, with this US China stuff going on, I feel like Singapore is kind of safe no matter what happens. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Okay, despite most of the population is Chinese, I would say that Singapore is more likely hub for countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, like neighboring countries from Southeast Asia. Mainland China has its own gateway to
Hong
the
Kong.
other world, is Hong Kong. And also, Hong Kong um, is a leasehold thing. In 1997, they were given to China after British lease expired, and yeah, there was a guarantee that there will be 50 years transition period, and now 30. I remember that day very well, 1st of July 1997. It was in the news everywhere, I think. Okay, British gives Hong Kong to China. And from that point, when you say, oh, okay, it is still 50 years ahead, but now 30 years are gone.
Right.
and it was like yesterday. Singapore is a separate country, and they built the system to facilitate international business.
Right.
Because when you don't have resources, not so many people like in China to offer a cheap workforce to all the globe, you need to offer something that other countries will buy. And Singapore offered a favorable business environment. That's what I think.
What does that mean? What does a favorable business environment mean? That's
Okay.
it's like if I say education,
Okay.
some people will think one
Oh,
thing and other
okay.
people will think something else.
Actually, we have in most countries we have competition between governments and businesses.
Yes.
So government impose taxes and fines when the taxes are paid late and so
Right.
on. Well, Singapore also has taxes, but the level is moderate. When we
Mm,
compare tax to GDP rate in the OECD, the middle rate is like 32%.
mm,
In the United States is 25%.
mhm.
So that's technically how many of national income government tax in the form of taxation.
Right.
Well, in Singapore it is 13.6%. So like two times less than in United States. And okay, and the biggest burden is on the high earning individuals and high earning companies. Small businesses like ours, they feel very happy about Singapore taxation. So
Yeah. Yeah.
a very simple tax system is like two words to explain: one tier and territorial. So
Mm,
territorial means that we pay taxes on income which we received in Singapore from other countries or which we earned from the source in Singapore.
mm.
For foreign founders who set up Singapore operating companies and operate the globe, it looks like they earn money everywhere, and they spend outside Singapore, and technically this money are exempt from Singapore tax. So Singapore system provides a lot of benefits to people inside Singapore,
So if
but
you
even
are
even
in
more
Singapore,
benefits for people outside Singapore.
so if I'm a company outside Singapore, but my company is based in Singapore and I maintain presence needed in Singapore, I don't pay any tax on the money I make internationally.
Unless you bring them to the country.
Bring who to the country?
Bring money to the country. Unless you bring money. So when you, that's territorial means you either bring money to Singapore from outside or you earn inside the country.
Right.
So when, for example, you are selling in US dollars and your business account is outside Singapore, I don't
Mhm.
know, like in US, you are not subject, your money are not subject to Singapore tax.
Wow.
Okay, US is a bad example because once something happens in US,
You have to pay.
IRS, Internal Revenue Service, uh, they want tax to be paid there.
Right.
It's my understanding.
Right. Right. Right.
Mm.
Interesting. So when you deal with, it sounds like from what I understand, you help a lot of companies use this to their advantage to have a company in Singapore, even though they're doing business internationally. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
And in from abroad, I can, yeah, and live here. I can experience like two different. Okay, I can understand two different positions. How to use Singapore company when you are based in the country,
okay.
and how to use the company when you are based outside the country. So operating income, is probably the least trouble
Right.
of the companies, especially for startups. They don't have any operating income for
Right.
years. And okay, when they develop their project on behalf of Singapore company, they can carry forward their losses for infinite period of time,
Hmm.
as long as they can. And
Right.
also they offset these losses from future profits
Right.
and start paying taxes only after the break-even point,
Right. Right.
which,
Right.
which
Right.
is important because other countries have different rule on this. Generally, they don't allow 100% offset. So once the year is profitable, you must pay taxes on
Mhm.
that profit. Maybe some previous losses you can deduct from your taxable income, and
Right.
that's it.
Right. 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 So let's talk about some of the top advantages. Why would an international business want to register? You've talked about some, like you talked about operating income, being able to carry forward your losses. But what are some of the top three, top five, top 10 reasons why, if I'm got a business elsewhere, why should I bother with the task and the project of setting up a business in Singapore?
So my top three is first is taxation.
Mhm.
It includes exemption of foreign income and also, which is also important, exemption of capital gain tax. So when people sell the business or when they invest on behalf of a Singapore company, they exempt their investment income. So number first is tax. Number second, for me, number second is my number first is win-win relationships between government and businesses.
What does that mean?
Okay, the laws are designed in the way to support businesses because in other countries it feels like the laws are designed
Yes.
to squeeze the businesses.
Yes. I'm from Canada. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So tax benefits, government support in terms of the laws, they're pro business.
Government support for small businesses. There is a support for big companies as well. There were like special regime for global headquarters for some years. Now it's no longer in operation. But every year there are some initiatives to boost productivity, develop certain industries which country um, which the government thinks important for not even for now, for future economic growth. When we look at the financial industry, the Singapore is now one of top 5 financial centers.
Mm-hmm.
And all that started 1990 when the government decided to convert the country into a global financial hub. It's accelerated in the recent 10 years when a lot of wealth from other countries they moved to Singapore.
Singapore. Yeah.
Yes. So we have favorable regime for family offices, for investment management, and assets under management, if I'm not mistaken, they tripled over the recent 10 years.
Wow.
And with the implementation of Payment Services Act was enacted in 2020, so it gave a boost to financial industry to develop payment institutions.
So, what are the top mistakes people make? They know that there's benefits. They want to come and set up a business in Singapore. They want to have a better, kind of more prestigious, because when you say your company's in Singapore, there's like a reputation that comes with that versus my business is in Malaysia or my business is wherever, Philippines or Vietnam or Indonesia. Singapore's got better credibility. We mentioned in your intro, if I'm trying to approve my app in the App Store, it's better and easier to be based out of Singapore than Indonesia for that, right? There's a
Yeah.
certain issue for financial transactions. You know, if you're transferring money from wherever, United Kingdom to Indonesia, it's different than United Kingdom to Singapore. But what are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to use having a legal entity in Singapore for those benefits? What are the top mistakes people make? Where do they mess up?
Singapore has an interesting feature. All the companies must have a local director. Until last year, it was unregulated. I think the biggest mistake was to arrange for local director by themselves. Just, oh, okay, I've been to Singapore, I met this guy. Okay, I know I want the company. I offer this guy a directorship because he is a Singapore citizen. And that's where
Wow.
the most of the fraud came.
Mm.
Now the government fixed this starting from the last year, June 2025. It is necessary to approach local director service via corporate service providers like us.
So the biggest issue is fraud. So you need to have someone that understands and can navigate locally so you don't get in trouble.
I would say when people start doing things by themselves, they increase a risk of getting into troubles.
Right.
Because okay, we we don't make clothes for ourselves. Most of the people they even don't cook for themselves. Yeah, they
Right.
eat
Yeah.
outside.
Right.
Actually, in Singapore, eating outside is a good tradition, which has its origin in the first years when it became British colony. Because workers who came from China were predominantly men without families. Their families were left in China. They didn't cook for themselves, and there were cooks who cooked for all the people. That's how the hawker industry started in Singapore. And as far as I know, the hawkers considered like cultural heritage of the country. Because in other countries, yeah, people lived with their families and they also eat outside. But in Singapore, it became a very developed industry. And even so far, there is a tradition, even for families, to go to a food court.
Yeah,
to
I've been to a bunch. I've been to Singapore half a dozen times. Yeah, we always eat at the food courts, and there's some they're open 24 hours a day, which is great because it's delicious food anytime you want. So, what are some of the habits and routines? Like if I'm outside of Singapore, but I want a Singaporean company for all the benefits we've talked about, what do you need to do weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually? What are some of the habits to help you navigate this stuff successfully?
So once you have a professional partner, okay, we just see most of our customers once a year after financial year end. The reporting is on annual basis for big companies who sell in Singapore and have revenue over 1 million Singapore dollars. They register for goods and services tax, and this is quarterly reporting. Those who do business outside Singapore, actually they don't have this GST obligations. They only ask for exemption from GST when their revenue exceeds 1 million Singapore dollar per year, which is technically 800,000 US dollar.
Okay. So if you're 800K, okay.
So, we apply for GST exemption, and since then the company continues to report on annual basis. Reporting is annual. I think this is the most favorable conditions you can get. Because somewhere is quarterly, somewhere companies must pay corporate income tax in advance. Here, everything and tax reporting is 1 year after. My financial year finished in January 2026. Also, we have flexible financial year, not linked to calendar year. Usually, it is linked to the date of incorporation. So our company survey platform was started on 28th of February, and we close our financial year on 31st of January. We prepare the report, but the final tax report we will submit only in 2027.
Right.
Until 30th of November. So there is a grace period after end of financial year. We have like if our financial year end was in December, yeah, we need to report tax until 30th of November next year. And what's interesting, we cannot report early because
Oh,
now March and April the reporting is open for individuals, and after that somewhere in May it is open for companies and lasts until 30th of November. Previously it opened on the 1st of July. Okay, even when you want to
yeah.
report earlier, the government tells you, wait.
That's kind of funny.
I can explain that because when the resources are limited, the government tries to distribute all their work, like to
Ah,
scatter over the year.
right.
March and April, they get reports from individuals. They process this report. After that, they start getting reports from companies. They are always busy because, like, when your reporting period is like first quarter until 1st of March, you get a lot of paperwork in the beginning of the year and then deal process it until the end.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
I think in Singapore it is scattered over the year, and it makes, even for government official, it makes their lives easier,
Easier.
our lives easier as well.
Yep,
It's an example of win-win relationships.
yep. Yeah, yeah. Which I mean, it's more efficient. Singapore is very efficient from the airport, everything I've seen. So how much does something like this cost? If a small business owner wants to set up a company in Singapore, what's
Yeah.
the cost to set it up and to maintain it?
Our package is 2,540 Singapore dollars, which is roughly 2,000 US. So this is initial setup, which includes government fees, registered address, secretary, and local director service. So once the company is registered, the founders usually apply for payment account. So they can approach us at additional cost, or they can do by themselves. We
Mhm.
explain everything. Actually, having payment account with fintech is like having account in a social network.
Mm,
You answer the same questionnaire. Okay, what is your name? What about your company? Company's name, the registration, address, industry, activities, okay, and anticipated volume of transactions.
yeah. And then what?
And also, yeah, Singapore is efficient in a way. For example, is efficient because company has just two basic documents.
Right.
Is business profile, where everything is told about company, and constitution, which replaced the memorandum and articles of association. So for example, in UK companies, they have memorandum of association describing more the purpose of the company, and articles of association describing the rules. We also have had this NDA, but a few years ago it was changed, and two documents were replaced by a single document called Constitution. So two documents, and these are the documents which founders submit when they set up payment accounts, along with their personal document. We are quite strict on this because my opinion that businesses must operate finance by themselves.
Yes. Yep.
We have competitors who offer company together with payment account within the system.
Yeah.
And it may also
Cause problems later with taxing
it
and
may cause problems because all the control is in the hands of a single service provider.
yes.
We are happy enough being administrators, but okay, those people who want even more efficiency, they can go to other service providers to set up a company together with account within the same system. And I think these are different activities.
Right.
Administering business and payment processing. And in my opinion, no one can be good at both. We say, okay, it's a big problem, then generally people think that the bigger is the better.
Right. Right. Right.
So the more services we offer is like it feels better, but to the certain extent. So we offer as many services as we can, but as administrator, we
Right.
limit our responsibility by being a good administrator. But
Mm,
there we can do everything. So we arranged for example, for a local phone number registered in the company name. We looked for premises for not only for offices, but for warehouses, for showrooms. So we as administrator can be representative here in Singapore. The company, our customers, they are different. Some of them, they set up companies for operating from outside the country.
Right.
Some of them start companies to come in Singapore, like I came 15 years ago, and we assist them with visas. And we also have customers who set up Singapore companies for getting visas in other countries, like Thailand, remote worker visa, Thailand, Emirates, totally 43 countries, to best of my knowledge. They offer these programs.
Right.
I think even Canada.
Right. I get what you're saying. Some people are setting up Singaporean companies for different purposes. Sometimes it's, yeah, okay. That makes sense. Well, Joseph, I want to be respectful of your time. If people want to learn more, if they want to have follow-up questions, what are some of the best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Okay, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Yeah, they can join me on LinkedIn. Any question, the easiest way, I think, is to use our company's website.
What's the website? What's your website?
I am savvy.
That's right. I am savvy. IAMSAVVY.com.SG. Or you can look them up on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/IN/Yosef-Savvy. You just look up his name, IOSEF, Yosef.
Yeah, my name spelling is not typical.
Yes.
In English-speaking countries, it's mostly Joseph. In Malaysia, is Yusuf. And this spelling comes from Hebrew spelling of the name Yosef. And it's a different story. We have time.
Yeah. So if you want to connect,
I can share.
Look him up on LinkedIn. You probably can just search his last name, Bogatyrev. That's B as in boy, O, G as in green, Atyre as in energy, V as in victory. Go take a look for him. You can look up Savvy. I am Savvy. If you've got questions about operating a company in Singapore or an external company there, go contact him there. Yosef, thank you so much. I've got 2 pages of notes here. Is there anything I have not asked you I should have asked you?
We better meet one more time. I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe not for podcast, just like.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll talk again. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us, knowing you have your own clients, your own staff, your family to look after. Thank you for coming and helping my audience and I.
Thank you, Daryl.